Hello and welcome back to Rock Records Reviewed. My name's Adam and this week we're going to take a look at the top 10 rock concert films. Who doesn't love a great rock concert film? I really do. Something I love to do at the end of the day is to just flop on the sofa with a big bottle of red wine and put on a rock concert film and watch it till the early hours of the morning. But it's probably something my neighbours hate. But there are so many good ones. But what separates the good ones from the unmissable ones? Well, I think obviously a great rock concert is going to convey the atmosphere to somebody just watching at home on television. I mean, obviously it's not like going to a gig, but let's face it, it's cheaper, it's cleaner, and it's a lot easier to get home. But they capture a moment in time. They perhaps reflect not just the music, but also society, which also you can see within the crowd. And often a rock concert film marks a shift in a social movement, and there's a few films here that kind of demonstrate that quite well, I think. And the vibe doesn't just come from the band and the music. It comes, of course, from the fans, but it also comes from all the accessories that the director puts around the music with their vision. There's so many films I could have put in here because I really do love watching a good rock concert film. But I think I've gone with the ones that have stayed with me all my life. They just have that extra little bit of magic, that extra little bit of fairy dust to them. Are some of these rock concert films, or are they rock documentaries? I think that's a fine line, and I think it gets a little bit blurry along the way. I'd like to do proper rock documentaries in another list another time, because I do love a good rock doc as well, or a rockumentary, of course. So maybe that's another list. But look, so there is going to be a little bit of blurring here and there, so you'll just have to give me a pass on that. But look, hey, enough of my yakking. Let's boogie. Roll the film, action. And at number 10, I'm going to put a film I suspect a lot of you probably don't like at all, and that is Rattle and Hum from 1988. U2's film, directed by Phil Genoux. Now, look, I've covered U2 before, and as I've said, I'm not a massive fan, and there's no denying that it's as easy to hate this film as it is to love it. It's pretentious, it's self-aggrandizing, but I think in the world of rock and pop, those are not necessarily bad things, are they? I mean, why do we have pop stars? Why do we have rock stars? That they're there to be put on a pedestal and enjoy and admired and sort of worshipped in the temple of rock. But look, there's no denying the power of the concert footage here. I think this was U2 taking arena rock to a whole new level and fine-tuning their craft, in a way that cemented their place as the world's biggest band for the next 2 decades to come. I remember seeing this as a young kid at my local Odeon and coming out thinking more than ever that that's what I wanted to do for a living. It was the power of the music and the way it was lifting people and energizing them and moving them on such a grand scale as well. And it's the way that U2 kind of were manipulating the space around them to maximum effect in a way that, no band had really done before, especially with the lighting as well. I sometimes find it a very powerful, moving experience watching how music can affect other people and seeing the emotional impact it takes effect. When you have something like, Where the Streets Have No Name kicking in, yes, you can argue that that's all very contrived here, but you can't deny that what people are feeling when those moments happen here, in fact, the influence that this concert film had on the genre for many, many years to come. I think it was a bit of a game changer in that respect. At number 9, I'm going to put Sign of the Times by Prince from 1987, directed by Prince with Albert Manoli. Now, look, let's get it out there right now, because I haven't really covered Prince enough on Rock Records Reviewed. Perhaps I've been a bit like, is he rock? Is he funk? Is he pop? What is he really? But look, Prince is a genius, whether you like it or not. And if you don't recognise that, I'd be annoying enough to suggest that you don't know what you're talking about, because Prince had absolutely everything. This concert film just presents all that genius on the screen in gorgeous Technicolor. in the round. He was touring his Sign of the Times band at the time with Sheila E. and all these fantastic musicians, and and that album was, is arguably his best. So he had all these incredible songs to draw from, and he can do the lot, Prince: rock, pop, funk, ballads, metal, blues. It's all in there. It's all in his music, and he could do it all and then some. Now, the film's a little bit of a cheat because the sound quality from the show they actually recorded for this, which was in the Netherlands, the sound quality wasn't great. And Prince, being the perfectionist he was, he decided to take the whole show back to Paisley Park and reshoot it there. So it's not perhaps what you might. It's a little bit of a cheat, but look, the impressiveness of the show is absolutely not diminished at all. Really. There's scripted links between some of the songs, but Prince does everything brilliantly. The links are fun, the costume changes, great sets, made to look like some seedy part of downtown, dancing, the musicianship, the amazing band. What you're left with is a document, really, of one of the very, very great music performers at their peak. At number 8, from 1970, I'm going to put the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter, directed by the Maysles brothers with Charlotte Zerin. This is a dark counterculture film. Be careful how you say that. The Stones had wanted to do their own kind of Woodstock, so they got this kind of gig together at the Altamont racetrack. But it was so badly planned and organised from the get-go. They got Sonny Barger and the Hells Angels to do security. So, oh my, you're asking for trouble, aren't you? Really? Oh, anyway, look, I don't mean to make light of this film because, as some of you may know, it actually documents a murder, which is captured on film. And what happened was that people were crammed in. There wasn't enough facilities. There wasn't enough water. As I've said, everything was badly organised. The stage was tiny. There were too many people. The Hells Angels were doing security. I mean, it's just a potpourri of, awful, perfect storm of bad planning and organisation. And the whole thing is just kind of whipping up as the film progresses into a sort of really uneasy feeling, and you've got these weird shots of the Hells Angels kind of tripping, and the Stones, Mick Jagger trying to say cool it man, but they still play Sympathy for the Devil. And at some point, captured on film, Meredith Hunter, an 18-year-old black man, was stabbed in the crowd, and this is all captured on film, and you get documentary aspect of this show with the Stones watching it back. It's very uneasy, the whole thing. You can feel the anxiety and fear in this film almost from the first reel. There's just something wrong, and but this is not a happy movie. But if you ever wanted to see the other side of the late 60s hippie dream, this is it. I mean, it's very much the dark side to Woodstock's happier vibe, and I think it's a compelling watch, I think, more than an enjoyable watch. And number 7, from 1968, I'm going to put Monterey Pop by D.A. Pennebaker. This is one of the most famous in-concert films, and it's probably most famous for sets by Jimi Hendrix and Otis Redding. But you've also got fabulous sets from The Who, Jefferson Airplane play a great set, and a career-making set from Janis Joplin. There's loads of celebrities in the crowd, and most of the show is shot at night. So I remember seeing this when I was a kid and seeing Janis Joplin on and Grace Slick, and kind of, it has kind of a sort of Mama Cass is in the crowd and everything, and it just has a sort of dark allure to it, this film, I found. And then, when Jimi Hendrix starts doing unspeakable things to his guitar at the end of his set, I was just thinking, what am I watching? What is this rock and roll? I thought it was just people playing guitars, but now I'm seeing the Who smash instruments up, and I'm seeing Jimi Hendrix having his wicked way with his amplifier, or setting fire to his guitar. And I thought, I want a piece of that. So it was very influential. So I suppose I could have gone one of two ways. I could have become an arsonist, or I could have become a musician. Luckily, I chose the latter. But the concert footage here is absolutely what sells it. It's fantastic. It's era-defining concert footage, especially from Jimi Hendrix. To the degree that the Library of Congress in 2018 put this into their vaults as a historically significant film. At number 6, I'm going to put from 1984, Jonathan Demme's classic "Stop Making Sense" by Talking Heads. Talking Heads is a band I have not covered enough on Rock Records Reviewed, but I will get round to a show eventually, because I do love them very much. And this really is a landmark in concert films, I think. The idea that you didn't just have to come out and play your numbers, or that rock theatre didn't have to be sort of crazy costumes and extravagant lighting and choreographed dancing and all those kind of things. So David Byrne comes out onto the stage just with a beatbox and his guitar, and even the sort of the sheets at the back, I've forgotten the word for them, are not up, and you can see back where they sort of leave all the sort of ladders and everything, and it's very stark. But he just comes out and says, "I got a song I want to play you," and he plays Psycho Killer. And then as the show progresses, another musician comes on for the next song, and then another one, and then slowly the stage takes shape and colour, and the whole thing just has a lovely natural build. It just ends up being this wonderful kind of joyous experience. They have their Bernie Worrell and some fantastic soul musicians on stage by the end, and backing singers to join them, and they do just the most fantastic once in a lifetime. It takes the whole thing to an almost spiritual level, I think. It's uplifting, it's life affirming, and I think it's such a concise example of the power of music when it's presented intelligently and with care and passion and humour and warmth. And I think David Byrne is still doing exactly that with his shows to this day. He is absolutely one of rock music's great auteurs. At number 5, I'm going to put Going Back Home from Dr. Feelgood, a video that was released in 2005, but it was filmed in Southend in 1975. And actually, I can't find who directed this because it's not written on the back of my DVD copy, and I can't seem to find it online. So if you know, please tell me. Now, look, this is a short film. It's only about half an hour long, but my God, if you want to catch a band at their peak, just doing what they do brilliantly, no frills, no baggage, no BS, this is it. No nonsense here whatsoever. Straight up Canvey Island pub rock, and you can see the stains on Lee Brillo's suit, and you can smell the sweat off the crowd, and it's completely electrifying. It just rocks like a bar stool, and it's everything that's great about Dr. Feelgood. It's tight, it's energetic, it's dangerous, it feels just a bit threatening. Lee Brillo holding his mic, staring at the crowd. Wilco with his bug eyes, machine gunning the crowd down. This is the band at their peak. If you don't know Dr. Feelgood that well, and you are interested in why they are so influential to so many bands across the world, then I advise you to go and check this video out, and you'll see the absolute essence of a great band all here within half an hour. Like I said, filmed in Southend in 1975, so they're very much on their home turf. And when I think of the Feelgoods, this is absolutely what I think of. They're right up there, just knocking it out of the park for a home run. So at number 4, I'm going to put Woodstock from 1970, directed by Michael Wadley. Of course, I had to have Woodstock in there. Now, we were talking earlier about films reflecting the culture of the time. Well, Woodstock does that sort of probably better than any. The innovative use of split screen filming, the unforgettable sets by Santana and Hendrix and Richie Havens. And there were a few less than impressive sets as well, it has to be said. But it's the vibe around the music that really gives this film its flavour and pungency. You know, the scenes of 500,000 people making a sort of almost medieval campsite on a farm in the 20th century, and all the logistical issues that go along with that. They're all there, they're all captured on this film. There are moments when, you know, watching this film, Woodstock looks like the happiest place on earth, and there are also moments when it looks like the most miserable. I mean, yes, it's dated, but as a historical document, you know, this is as powerful and as vivid as a rock concert gets, I think. And again, the Library of Congress have given it their seal of approval for its cultural and historical significance. And number 3, from 1979, Neil Young's Rust Never Sleeps film, directed, of course, by Neil Young himself. You know, this was one of Neil Young's greatest albums, Rust Never Sleeps. And, you know, this concert film, he just wanted to add his typical sort of Neil quirkiness. So he's got the roadies dressed as Jawas from Star Wars. He's got the massive outsize amplifiers. He's got the winged keyboard coming down. It's just very subtle little touches around the music. And of course, the music is spectacular. It opens with Neil and his acoustic guitar, just much like the album does. The first side is acoustic, the second side is electric. Opens with Neil and his acoustic guitar, and then Poncho comes on, and they play guitars together. And the guitars sound amazing. They are just beautifully recorded, and they just resonate in the concert hall in a way that I have never been able to make an acoustic guitar sound myself. But then I'm not Neil Young, so, you know, I'm kidding myself, I think. But, you know, the songs, you know, Thrasher, Pocahontas, just they, and of course some of the hits he throws in as well. They sound better than ever. And then of course the band comes on for the second half, and they just rock it. You know, the grunge sound, it just tearing the place up. Absolutely, they're on fire. Neil's guitar sounds like nothing you've ever heard. And I think this is one of the great rock stars and songwriters of them all, just being great in the same way Prince's show was a great performance by performer. This is just Neil doing what he does, playing brilliant songs he's written brilliantly, and playing fantastic guitar as well. A lot of the versions on here are the defining versions of their songs, particularly things like a Hurricane. And to this day, I think the film is very much seen as a landmark of the genre as well. So these next two, my final two, I think take rock concerts to another level again for me. One of them is very personal, and I go back to these ones a lot because of the way they make me feel. And I put them at 1 and 2, but really they could be either way around. But at number 2, I'm going to put the Concert for George. This was directed by David Leland a year to the day after George Harrison died, in 2003. Oh, this film. I mean, you know, I've seen this film many times, and I watched it again recently, just last week. And I think the older I get, the deeper George Harrison's music and message moves me, and the more it means to me. And Eric Clapton, who of course was George Harrison's best friend, he was musical director for this show, and you really have to take your hat off to him, because it's a sublime evening. It really is. The evening starts with Ravi Shankar and his daughter giving a sitar performance, and you know, you think, oh, okay, but actually, have you ever seen someone play sitar, let alone play it as a virtuoso? It's an extraordinary instrument, and it's just captivating watching Rabi's daughter play this incredible instrument, and the sounds she can make from it. I'm so sorry, I forget her name. Anush, I think it's Anush. Um, uh, and then there's a whole Indian orchestra comes on, and they perform this fascinating sort of suite of music. And, you know, it's one thing to sort of, you know, take for granted that other cultures have their music and their instruments and everything, but it's a completely other thing to see them performing it in the Royal Albert Hall up close in beautiful surround sound. It's absolutely mesmerizing, particularly when you're aware of Eastern scales and the fact that, you know, music is different and actually perceived differently in different cultures. But then the last 2/3 of the show, all of George's friends come on and take turns. So you've got Clapton, of course, you've got Jeff Lynne, you've got Gary Brooker, you've got Billy Preston, Andy Fairweatherlow, and of course Ringo and Paul. But what you're left with here is just the sense of the man, because there's so much love in the room. Clapton comes out and announces himself, and from the word go, you can tell this is going to be a very, very special evening. You can feel the love coming off the screen. You can feel it in the beautiful way and with the respect the musicians play George's songs. They're rendered so beautifully, with such care. And I find it really interesting how all the voices of all of those musicians, they suit George Harrison's songs so well. They are singers from a different time, and all of their voices fit brilliantly. And I think if I sort of try to imagine if there was a tribute for George Harrison now, and you'd have all these modern singers coming on, warbling their way over these songs, and it sort of makes my blood boil, blood, either way. You know, and the all of the performers who come on, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, they smash it out of the park. The sound is absolutely beautiful on all of these songs. And I talked earlier about the emotional impact that music has on people, and how with U2 in their thing, it was kind of all very contrived. Here it feels very, very natural, very, very gentle and gracefully done, and you come away with such an acute and rich sense of the person that George Harrison was. And I think that's because all the people playing in the evening on the evening for him, they were all such good friends who really loved him. And Danny and Olivia Harrison are there, and you come away from this video film with such a warm sense of a kind of benign spirituality and goodness. I know that sounds, you know, real sort of like hippie nonsense, but trust me, watch this film if you haven't seen it. If you have any interest in George Harrison, the Beatles, any of those performers, and particularly Eric Clapton, you'll come away feeling the same way I did. I implore you to watch it if you haven't, and please do watch the Indian section at the first in the first third, and stay with it, and let me know what you think if you do. Please do. So my number one film, and you probably guessed it if you're eagle-eyed, it is from 1978. Martin Scorsese's The Last Waltz. His absolute masterful documentary, concert film. This very sort of lines are very much blurred in this, but I couldn't not have it in, could I? From 1978. I think it's 1978. It could be 1979. I think it's 78. So of course the band are absolutely sublime. How could they not be with those musicians? And the versions of their songs on here are just wonderful. But you come for the band, and you also get this just absolute gallery of superstars. So you've got Dylan, Neil Young, Van Morrison, Joni Mitchell, Eric Clapton, Muddy Waters, Paul Butterfield, excuse me, and many, many more. And some of those sets are absolutely brilliant. Dylan's set is very mercurial. It's a kind of an odd one, but he does a fantastic version of Baby Let Me Follow You Down. Muddy Waters does a mesmerizing I'm a Man. Robbie Robertson and Clapton trade licks on a fantastic Further Up the Road, where famously Clapton's guitar strap breaks. Joni Mitchell does a wonderful, beautiful Coyote. And Van Morrison does Caravan, fantastic Caravan with leg kicks and everything. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. There's something quite melancholy about the film, I find, as if it's sort of marking not just the end of the band on tour, because that's what the whole show was about. It was about marking the end of the band as a touring outfit, but it's also sort of the end of a kind of an Americana, an aspect of the American dream that was captured in the music of the late 60s and early 70s by these performers. It's very neatly reflected in the scene where Neil Young comes out and he's got a big dab of coke still on his nose, and of course coke had replaced the much more sort of innocent weed as the drug of choice for musicians in the 70s, and I think a certain innocence and inclusive expressionism was somehow lost somewhere. And of course, after this film, we had anarchy in the UK and nihilism and punk music and drum machines and crack cocaine. And life would never really be the same again. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's what great music does and what great film does. It makes you think, doesn't it? And look, even if you come for my questionable subtext, you'll stay for the incredible music on The Last Waltz, because it's fabulous. And you've got these great little interview snippets as well, where Robbie Robertson and the band come out with all these sort of funny sort of sound bites. You come away thinking they're the coolest people on earth. The highlight of the film for me is the band doing It Makes No Difference. Just an absolutely sublime song anyway. But I'm not exaggerating when I tell you I think this is one of the single greatest song performances ever caught on film. It's just so moving. It just feels so human, so vulnerable. It's wonderful. So if you haven't got time to watch the whole film, but which you should have anyway because it's brilliant, then just tune in to watch them do It Makes No Difference, because it's as I've used that word before in this show, there's something a little bit spiritual about it, and I'm not a particularly spiritual person. My gods are the gods of rock. So there you go, and Liverpool FC. So look, that's my top 10 concert films. I hope you've enjoyed it. There are so many other good ones. Iron Maiden, Live After Death. I really liked Roger Waters' Us and Them. Pink Floyd, Live at Pompeii has kind of an appeal to it. David Bowie, the Ziggy Stardust concert, that was a really good one. That nearly made it in. I'm sure you've got your favourites, so I'd love to hear what they are. But I hope you've enjoyed it this week, and I'll see you again soon for another Rock Records review. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.